Welcome to VDG Sports. I am your host, Vince Douglas Gregory. Besides wearing this shirt, since I haven't done it in a long time, I got some NBA thoughts. I was thinking about the NBA, how it measured up against other leagues. Yes, I champion the NBA because their willingness to push the envelope, their willingness to innovate, the innovators. However, when it comes to building a team through the draft that can win the title, win the championship, win it all, that's why I think the NBA falls short. If you're trying to build a team through the draft, GM, NBA, no, it don't work until it works. Has it worked? I don't think so. But when you look at other teams, other major sports, I should say, NHL, yeah, you exist for this comparison and contrast. NFL, MLB, MLS, no thank you. See ya. Wouldn't want to be you. Bye-bye. Those other leagues, you definitely would want to build your team through the draft and add a key player, key veteran later on, or a superstar later on too. Feel the need and push you through. Baseball, yes. Yes, yes, yes. In fact, there's multiple different ways to build, and the draft is a solid. It's a solid. NFL, most general managers, that's their goal, to get most of their players on their first contract, meaning their rookie contract or their second contract. And they're still young, and they are players that was drafted. NHL, yes, 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 same. Because of those other leagues, the draft is deep. You can find gems more often than not. All over. Anywhere. The NBA, not so much. Once you get out of the lottery, sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting an absolute stamp on this, because if I was, my nose would be growing. My nose ain't growing, and I'm not standing in front of Geppetto. If you know, you know. But with the draft, the NBA draft, the lottery is where it's at. Sure, you can find a hidden gem, a hidden talent later on in the later rounds. There's history of that, where players, for whatever reason, got drafted later on and were able to find a way to make it work, find a way to be that star, be that superstar. But if you are a team in the NBA, a general manager building exclusively through the draft is a no until it ain't. Maybe that's the next step of this innovative process. Maybe that's the next step that the NBA will eventually get to, where you can build through the draft and win, and teams will look to build through the draft, but then you have to solve the tanking issue, because it's definitely an issue. More so NBA than any other league. But don't quote me on that, because that's not a fact. It's an opinion. You're welcome. You're welcome. But besides that, there are definitely different ways to build an NBA champion, an NBA team that's ready to compete. You can bring in a star. You can bring in 3 stars. You can bring in 2 stars and a deep bench. You can bring in a bunch of role players. You can spend money on top of money on top of money and bring in the best of the best. Well, only in about 5 positions, or 6 if you're pushing it, because that luxury tax is, it's something else. But other than exclusively building through the draft, that's a no-no. But are you probably saying to yourself, do you really exclusively build through the draft in any other leagues? Not really. But having so many players around the same age in the NBA, or having so many players that's young and don't know how to win yet, or don't know how to compete yet. You can't get away with it. There's not that many players on a team to begin with in the NBA compared to the other sports. Hockey, yeah, they're players. They're probably anyway. Let's not talk about that niche. Let's not talk about that niche. But hockey, you definitely would like to build through the draft or have players that, because it's different in the sense of the salary cap and the money and being able to keep and hold on to players, which is hard to begin with anyway. And so if you having players in the draft and they're solid and they can compete, you bring in a player or two that's a veteran, a player or two that's a superstar, and you can go forward and you can win things. Well, Lord Stanley Cup. And that's not the same in the NBA. And that's why the NBA ain't like any other. But that's probably the next step in the growth process, the next step in innovation. Of course, besides virtual reality,